On today's episode of the Money Lap, we have a secret interview with a NASCAR executive. Mr. Executive, say hello.
Thank you for having me on the show.
That's actually amazing.
So on today's show, you're going to spill all of the secrets that are happening in NASCAR.
Well, I'm not going to tell too many secrets.
Hey, what's your guys' financials?
They're pretty good.
Welcome to the Money Lap. I kind of look up mid-taco bite. You don't know disappointment. Talking all things motorsports by two real drivers.
I appreciate being called a gritty driver.
With many, many years of experience.
We've had to do that other people didn't want to do.
The most dedicated host in the motorsports podcast world.
Weren't we supposed to have somebody come on our show as a guest?
No, we did it.
Did we?
Yes.
Yes, for our 1 year anniversary.
And we definitely know what we're doing. Remember, talk through your mic.
I'm talking past it like this.
Well, if you just pointed it differently. Never mind. Never mind.
Oh.
Never mind.
Let's
the
talk about
standard
race
is like-
cars. God's
This
sakes.
is our worst show ever. Hey, we're back. It's the Money Lap. I'm Parker Kligerman, joined as always by Landon Cassill. We did have a 2-month break, and we are excited to be back. It took us a little bit longer to get back than we had hoped, but that's because we're busy. We're doing lots of things. You may notice this sounds a little different. We're also going to have a new intro, a new mindset, new jobs, new lives, maybe, but you'll have the same terrible host here on the Money Lap. I don't think we're terrible.
Hostesses.
Hostesses, welcome to your table. This is the Money Lap restaurant.
How do we sound? I have headphones on where I can hear myself.
I know we've never had this. This is so
I know.
professional. It took us 2 years.
I also have an actual soundboard. So, when the crowd is out there,
Hey, we have a live crowd. Applause,
Pretty much.
please.
yep. And
Please-
I can also,
Hey, wait, please clap. Please clap.
I can also really control when Parker's about to himself.
I do swear. I find myself doing that.
Okay, so I'm basically like a little kid with an iPhone right now.
Yeah. I've got
This
some
is like
controls,
when
but
my
I have
kids
to
get
do.
FaceTime and they do all
Well,
the
I have to
things.
do it with my foot to do mine. Yeah, to do mine, it's like, oh. But I got my soundboard's on my floor. I haven't set up anywhere for it to sit yet.
You're like a rock star on stage.
Yeah,
Just
literally.
controlling your guitar.
I'm changing my tune here. Hey, did you know this? We combine for 863 stock car starts. We're almost to 900.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know
Me
that.
and you combined.
Combined. I'm 6 away from 300. So I'll hit that this year most likely, if all goes to plan in the trucks.
Hey, sorry.
I'm
to
not counting
clear your
IMSA,
momentum.
by the way. What? No, you just muted yourself.
Okay, good. I was trying.
You wanted to see if it worked?
just so I could clear my throat.
Yeah, so we have all these new tools and exciting things. So thanks for joining us. We're just going to spend the next hour and a half
Talking about our new tools.
messing around.
We were looking for a new seating position for me, so now I'm leaning back in the couch instead of sitting forward, which is nice. Although I
it's
I
relaxed.
can't reach my computer, so I made Parker promise me that this show it's totally off the cuff, and
No notes.
because all of our other shows are very well scripted.
Mm-hmm.
This one though is just going to be a little bit more relaxed
Yeah, the writers we hire for each of the other episodes
Yep.
are a little
because I
disappointed
can't
right now.
reach my computer to look at the run of show. But sorry, so I interrupted you. You and I combined have how many starts
863 in stock
total
cars.
NASCAR starts?
Well, that's NASCAR and ARCA. So I can and all those combined. Every
So
time
you're at what? Almost 300 starts?
almost
total?
300. Yeah.
Wow.
And you NASCAR you're 500 and something.
560 or 5.
And I'm close to
I'm in the-
300.
Yeah, I'm close to I'm almost to 600, close.
But
I
I
need
do
a
have
whole
some-
nother season to get to 600.
Well, I do have some news for you.
What is it?
You have to do a race this year because you're in
have to?
jeopardy of being knocked off the active list on Racing Reference.
Oh my gosh. What is the
I think as long as you do one every 2 years, 2 or 3 years, you're active.
Okay.
So you got to do one.
So, for most drivers, they do a race to keep their champions provisional. For me, it's to stay active on Racing Reference.
That's a big deal. Can't let that go. The Racing Reference.
Deal. It's funny because I would love to be able to brag about all of the wins and championships that I have, but sometimes when I'm describing to somebody my racing career, just to be able to say that I've raced in nearly 600 NASCAR starts is pretty incredible.
It's a lot. It's a
lot of driver intros.
It's a lot of driver intros. It's just a lot of time at the track, especially in the era when you were there 4 days. So you were on the road.
Like, think about that. Think about how many driver intros that is.
It's many. Many people saw you wave your hand.
Just heading up there, standing around.
I started doing the rock on in the last 2 years, like this, and I walk out, so you don't have to wave. It's memorable, I think.
That's a good one.
Speaking of which, I mentioned I have a new job. I'm not unemployed, by the way.
And what is that, Parker?
I'm going to be in the booth for CW in the Xfinity
That's
series.
amazing. That's
not
amazing.
all the races. Myself and Jay McMurray are the I guess you would call it predominant voices you'll hear, but there will be some others mixed in there throughout the year. So we
They
don't
went
have to
with
all 33.
all-star lineup.
I believe so. I think obviously myself bias, but Jay McMurray I think is one of the more awesome, intelligent individuals I've heard on NASCAR television. Adam Alexander's an absolute pro. We did a rehearsal for the Clash weekend last weekend where we commented on we did like a pre-race and then we did the broadcast for the Clash, just Adam and myself. But I felt like we could have posted it and I think people would have loved it. So
Yeah.
it was.
So what
it
can
was
we
exciting.
expect out of the CW booth this year?
Well,
for
I mean,
community
we start Daytona, obviously. I think the cool thing people will see is the graphics. I got to see a lot of those, and they are really nice. And it's different, and you're just going to get, for the first time in the Xfinity series in a while, you're going to get a dedicated group for that series. And that series has kind of gotten its own identity in the last couple years, whether by accident or on purpose, I like to say. It's become classic stock car racing compared to what we see in the Cup Series, which has gone on to obviously a newer platform and that sort of thing. And so I just think it's in a unique spot. You've got I think there's a lot of drivers who this is kind of their Cup Series. This is as high as they're going to go. They're going to make a career out of it. They make a living doing it. You have some of the young up-and-comers who are on their way to the Cup Series, and then you have some who want to stick around Justin Allgaier style. So I just think it's a really cool time for it.
That's a good to kind of chase down that rabbit hole of conversation. And I still want to talk about what to expect out of that booth and the broadcast, but is that a sign of like a combination of the health of the sport right now? There's a lot of funding in the sport, right? We're not having the sponsorship and funding complaints that we used to have. We're still having them, but is it a combination of the health of the sport and also just the uniqueness of the Xfinity series that it is in its own way a little niche destination for career, not just drivers, but there's crew members that prefer it. The Truck Series has gone through that, right? Like there's a lot of people in the Truck Series that have no interest in racing Xfinity or Cup.
I think it's a good schedule. You get your Sundays off. That's a big one for the crew members, right? Who choose to do Xfinity. I think for the drivers, especially if you're someone who's in a top 10 ride that can win, you're in a really unique situation in that it's a big series, well over 1 million viewers on average. It gets a lot of attention. You get to race 33 times a year, so it's a long-term commitment. And, it's big enough. I think by all metrics, you can make an argument it's the second biggest series in America over F1 or even IndyCar. So we're right there with them. So it's like it's in a really unique spot, and the cars are cool. Like whenever you ask drivers what's the coolest car in NASCAR to drive, they're going to say the Xfinity car. Like it's just the most fun.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of made its own little destination. It's cool.
It's cool, and I think on the broadcast side, what I mean by having a dedicated group that's going to be different is like to that point, I just think you're going to see and hear a lot more names, a lot more stories than you have in the past. You're going to, have this group that is focused on this series specifically. So it's going to really have its own feel and flair and, just sort of I think a like presence that it hasn't had, and you know where to go every time. It's on the CW. It's super simple. It's on broadcast. It's in 99.9% of homes in America. Like, it has a huge opportunity to have a lot of eyeballs all the time. So the CW's put a lot behind it.
Because I've seen some other sports on CW lately. Are they really investing in live sports?
Yes, they've done. I think they have some college football, some basketball. They have that Inside the NFL show. This is the biggest property, though, I believe. They also have wrestling, Next Wrestling. So, sort of that WWE style stuff. So they've definitely leaned into this because that's, I think, a lot of, obviously, all the networks have done. But this is
live sports and live news. I mean, that's like other than that, you're competing against Netflix, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And just on demand in general, not just Netflix, but
yeah. So I think it'd be cool. Hopefully, I sound somewhat intelligent and bring something unique. We'll see, but it's gonna be fun. I had a blast doing the rehearsal. It was just so different than pit reporting. Like, I've got to do it one other time or once or twice in the booth, but you just have so many more resources in the booth. You have so much more time to explain something and to tell a story or to explain what's happening on the track. And you can obviously lean into always commenting on what's actually happening. And it's just a totally different experience than pit road.
Are there new faces and new people, a new team, or is on the production side is a lot of familiar faces to you? Because you've worked with so many teams over the years.
Yeah, so the main producer, Caleb Combs, he was our producer at NBC on the Xfinity series the last couple of years. So he's moved in that role, which is super cool. Some of the people you've seen do the production behind the scenes for IMSA are involved, but all of them have mostly been involved in NASCAR in some capacity.
Right.
And just to go through the whole group, you've got Carla Metz, who will be on the pre-race and interjecting at times. You got Kim Kuhn on pit road, who's a pro. Dylan Welch, who's an absolute pro, and then myself.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Jay McMurray and Adam Alexander. So it's a cool crew. And as I said, I think you'll see some other names and faces throughout the season that will join in.
You said the graphics are going to be really cool, and that you're kind of looking forward to that.
They're slick.
What is that driven from? Did CW bring something new to that, or NASCAR Productions, or where's that? The graphics side coming from?
I think it's a combination of both, but definitely CW wanting to have their unique style and take on it. And I think when people get to Daytona, they're going to be pleasantly surprised. So awesome. It's some really good stuff. Really, really cool, innovative stuff. So we'll see. It's going to be fun.
Not as good as E-Racer Firecracker 400, though?
I mean, it's slightly below that level. Not quite that sim racing level. But, we'll hope to get there in due time. There's a long-term commitment there by the CW, the Xfinity series. So I think we'll hopefully, get everyone to see the benchmark that was the E-Racer Firecracker 400s that we produced and, try to get to that level at some point.
Yep.
What have you been up to?
We
had 2 months off.
You know what? I had probably the busiest January you could ever have in my life, not being in racing. I traveled a bunch, mostly for the dealership, for car related stuff. So I went to 2 different 20 group meetings. I went to the NADA conference, which is the National Auto Dealers Association. And then we had a 2-day leadership offsite here at the dealership where the leaders of our dealership get together and have kind of an annual vision meeting, where we talk about the business moving forward. But the 20 groups were cool. I was in New Orleans twice. I was in Key Largo once. And in a dealership world, it's almost like a technical alliance in racing, where we have not really a formal partnership, but like a technical alliance with 20 other dealers around the country, non-competing dealers. And we just open our books to each other and share business practices and come home with all kinds of new ideas.
So when you walk in there with the big profits, you're like, you look at these boys. Take a look. Take a gander.
It is. Yeah, it's competitive. It's a lot of egos in the room for sure.
Sounds like racing.
We belong to 2 of them. One of them is just focused on the service side of the business. So, the maintenance of the vehicles and auto repair shop side of the business, and that's all they focus on in that 20 group meeting. And then the other 20 group meeting is kind of the bigger one that just encompasses the whole company. And they definitely, it's structured where you look at your composite and all your numbers, and the low performers are on the right side of the page and the high performers are on the left side of the page. And
Sounds like timing and scoring.
It is literally like timing and scoring. You want to be on the left side of the page, not the right side of the page.
Were we on the left this year?
In some categories, yeah, we were on the left side of the page. In some categories, we were on the right side of the page. So,
those are rookie numbers. Got to pump them up.
Yeah, you got to pump them up. So, it's good. Yeah, it was pretty cool. For me, being not like kind of, I want to say new into the business, but it was cool to be in an area, in a place where I could talk about the dealership world among other people in the space, right? Yeah. In racing, we go to the racetrack every week and you just talk racing all weekend long. In our business, it's like I can talk about our business to people in our business, but you don't really venture outside of our business very often to talk about the business. Does it make sense?
Given the business?
Yeah.
You talk to me about it all the time, but I don't really know what you're talking about.
I know. It's just a one way.
It's definitely it's like a stream of consciousness every time.
You're fun to talk about it though, because you're smart and you get it. It doesn't take. It takes like 2 seconds for you to like understand what I'm talking about. So
I see number go up. I know good.
You're right.
Speaking of big numbers, I raced a pretty expensive car this past January at the Rolex 24 at Daytona in a Lamborghini.
Is it the car itself that's expensive, or the act of
Everything.
racing it that's expensive?
Literally everything. Every part of it's expensive. There's a reason sports car racing is for the gentleman racer, because the cost I've been absolutely blown away by the cost of IMSA and sports car racing. The budgets for a GTD car, all season IMSA, which is like 10 races, is the same as a top level Xfinity car, which runs 33 races.
Why?
Yet there's no prize money.
None. Who's paying for all this?
I have no idea. I don't even understand where any of it's coming from. I really don't. I was like sitting there and just like, who's funding all this? But the manufacturers are big in it. They help a ton. So the team at Forte that I drove for is a Lamborghini factory team, or not factory, but like factory customer. I don't know how they term it, but they get a lot of help from Lamborghini, and all those.
Which really
do.
just means, and I'm not being sarcastic at all. So they're not a factory team; they're a factory customer. So what that really means is Lamborghini is just let them into the club to be able to buy the latest and greatest equipment, right?
Somewhat like that, but then
because there's another level down, isn't there?
I don't think so. I think if you commit to a full program, you're kind of like in the deal. It's sort of like almost like having an alliance, right? With a bigger cup team sort of thing. But you get engineering support. Sometimes they place factory drivers. So like all these manufacturers and sports cars have a roster of drivers. Like Lamborghini has, 10, 15, 20 drivers who are considered factory Lamborghini drivers. They get a salary from Lamborghini, and they literally just get told to go anywhere in the world. So it might be the Bathurst 12-hour, and they're like, hey, you need to go there and race for this team. It might be DTM, which now runs GT3 cars, or GT World, or SRO, or IMSA, or Le Mans, or the 24 hours of Spa. Like, they just get kind of told, and they have a little bit of say, but they also then get, sometimes allocated like, hey, you're going to run a full IMSA season with this team. You're the driver.
Interesting.
Have fun. And
so the manufacturer subsidizes that?
Yeah, they'll pay for that driver and everything. So that's sort of what the career path is for a pro driver in that area, in that realm. Sometimes you have pro drivers who are hired by the team directly, and then obviously you have the gentleman drivers who primarily fund most of this, right? You have the wealthy businessman, or
which is what I want to
say. Yeah, the saying. Every pro driver's dream should be to get rich and go sports car racing. So, and to be the gentleman driver. You want to be the gentleman driver, trust me. That's where it's at. But it was super cool. It's been a bucket list for me, man, and it was such a cool experience. We were down there forever. We did 2 days of testing in December where I got used to the car, and then you're down there for the Roar, but you get down there a couple days before that. So I was down there for like 12 days straight, basically, with 2 days where I went a day. Basically, I went up for CW Media Day for the Xfinity Series. But then you're just there a ton, but there's a lot of on track time, but because there's 4 drivers and you're rotating through as you run through the practice, you actually don't get a lot of time in the car. Like, because there's all sorts of different things you're trying to accomplish, and there's only so many tires, so you might get in the car 3 days into the practice or the roar and be on 100-mile tires or whatever, or even worse. And it's just like, hey, go do 5 to 10 laps, then we're going to do a driver change. Tell us what you think. And it's like, okay, done.
Wow.
So then, like, you get in, and you're like, well, was I fast? And it's like, no way to tell because you're on these tires that no one else has run on. And so it's just it's an interesting game in that sense. They also had this whole new energy management system deal that came into GT that's similar to the hypercars. So that was crazy. But on the whole event was so cool. I just felt like I was 16 because this is what I wanted to do when I was so young. And I did enjoy driving the car. The cars are insane. Like, they have ABS, so you can just smash the brake pedal. And I think I told you this, and I said it in a lot of places, but you know how, like, in a stock car, your peak brake pressure is like 1,250 pounds at a road course. In these cars, with the ABS, you can get as high as 2,000 pounds and do it in like a millisecond. But that means you have to literally, like, take your leg and smash the brake pedal as hard as you possibly can at the end of the straightaway, which is really hard. So it's just, the normal pros, they're getting to 1,500 to 1,800 pounds in high braking brake zones. So it's just
if you were to race that full time, do you literally think that you need to do more leg presses in the gym?
100%. I'd have to, you'd have to get that fast twitch muscle fiber and your leg to be stronger. And then the other thing you've got to do is get past the mental gap, because when I did the test, we didn't have data on the first day. There was all this new electronics they were trying to work through. Mm-hmm. So I didn't get to see, but I was creating good lap time. I was pretty fast, but I knew I probably wasn't hitting hard enough. But I was telling myself, like, hit the brake harder than you ever thought. Hit it harder than you ever thought. And so we finally get data on the second day, and we get done, whatever, and I went pretty fast. But my peak brake pressure was 1,250 pounds.
Really? So you're like, another 300 pounds, and I could just go faster.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, that's exactly what I know for the last 15 years in a stock car. So, like, mentally, I've got to get my brain to, like, hey, you can hit it harder. Even though you think you're hitting as hard as you know that you should hit the brake, go harder.
So are you telling me that at 1,200 pounds of brake pressure in that car, you're not at threshold on the tire?
Not even close. You're not getting into the ABS enough. What you want to do is you just get it as hard as you can and get it into the ABS. So then you start to feel like the tire shuddering and doing all this stuff, but that's where the computer is doing the work for you in the brake zone. And then you want to tail out of that and release it from the ABS as you get to the center of the corner to allow the car to turn. It's funky. Really funky. And then there's all the different there's all the other tools you have for, like, traction control and all this that's, like, crazy. So there's just so much going on. It's so different. The funny thing you'll also laugh at is, like, our mentality in stock car racing or dirt racing and everything we know in that oval world is if the car's not doing what you want, go and drive it differently, change your line, find a different way to drive it. For these cars, your first move is not to change you. It's like, okay, change the engine braking setting, change the TC setting, change the TC lat, change this thing, and see if you can get the car to react differently before you change what you're doing in the car.
Why is that?
Because you have so many tools. So, like, you want to drive it to the max, what would be considered, like, the perfect way to drive it, but then make the car, the gizmos in the car.
So then are you
saying
that in sports car racing, because there's so many in-car tools for the driver, that you can adapt the car to your driving style?
Slightly.
I mean, it's still within reason.
Yeah, within reason. But I'm just saying, like, if you start to get understeer in the center of the corners, your first move isn't to back up your braking zone. Your first move is to then say, okay, well, what can I change setting-wise? Yeah, like, what can I change the engine braking? Can I change the brake bias? Can I change the TC lat as I get into the throttle, and it will allow the car to rotate more in the center and that sort of thing. So it's just it's a different mentality than what we've known forever.
I felt cool. That's interesting. I love that. And I could see that because when first of all, the closest I've ever had to something like that is when Cup had adjustable track bars.
Oh yeah. Yep.
and actually even more so than that, when Cup had adjustable track bars and we had like a flapper on the side window hose, we could shift the aero balance.
Yep.
And it was interesting to me when I'd raced with adjustable track bars for 2 years or however long it was that we raced with them. And you got so used to always having it. And yeah, you had to ask for adjustments and pit stops still and give lots of feedback, but you always had that track bar adjustment, right? And I found that a lot of tracks, you would just adjust it over the course of a run. Shoot, at Richmond one time, I touched it every single lap because the tire fall off was so dramatic and the balance swing was so dramatic. Every lap coming off of turn 2, I would just lower the track bar like 1/10 of an inch, right? because it was like the next corner was always going to be a little bit looser than the last one. So it was just like every corner I just lowered it 1/10 of an inch. And then when they took the adjustable track bar away, it was like, well, I don't have that tool anymore. I guess I got to go back to adjusting my driving style.
You remember?
I can see that. Like if and here's the other thing too is, especially at a professional level, like even at a higher level than what you were at, right? Because this was your first time.
Yep.
At a really, really high level, when you drive these Lamborghinis for a living, right, and you're a factory driver, and you know that car better than anybody, you've been in the sim and all that stuff, you're driving it, you have to assume that you're already driving it to the 99th percentile, right? Mm-hmm. So now you have all these tools at your disposal. Just start tinkering.
Actually, I saw that. So that our factory Lambo driver at the Rolex was Frank Pereira, who used to be the test driver for Toyota in F1 for many years and has done all sorts of big endurance races and just done everything. He did IndyCar, he did Atlantic, super fast. One of the fastest drivers I think I've ever seen in my life. And he was automatic, man, in this car. Like he'd hop in and be 7 to 8 tenths faster than any of us by just like, didn't matter. And you'd look at his data and just be like, how's he doing that? And then you'd just be like, I'm not going to get there.
What were you missing?
There was many areas. In terms of pure lap time, I probably wasn't that far off, but my biggest issue was traffic. And not the LMP car, not the GTP cars and the LMP2s and that sort of thing. My biggest struggle was, I did a majority of my running in the nighttime. So I got in the car right as the sun was setting, which, by the way, I got to tell you the story of like getting in for my first time to a live driver change. We're in the lead, first of all. All the cameras show up, right, around me from like the trackside cameras, the NBC broadcast. Everyone knew I was getting in the car. And the team manager turns to me and he goes, like, you can tell I'm like a little antsy. And he's like, hey, man, just get in. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But like, I don't want to screw this up because we're in the lead. It's a live driver change, which you do the driver change in roughly 15 to 20 seconds. And the pit stop is 40 seconds. But the only, if you do it well, which you do so much practice, if you do it well, that's plenty of time because you're buckled in and sort of settled by 20 seconds, 25 seconds. And then you have time to kind of adjust your belts, get them tighter, get the wheel set, get the pedals in the right position, get your other settings, and then they tell you, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you rip off. But where that goes awry is if you ever have an issue and you panic, you'll lose 10 seconds in what seems like a second. So, you just want to just do it smoothly, be almost purposely slower than you think you need to be, and you're faster. But I get in, Rever. My first runs were sunset into nighttime, and then I did a lot of running in the nighttime because I was supposed to be done by like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I would be back in the morning, like when it became sunrise again. But when we got through the nighttime, I was losing a bit of time in traffic where on my first restart, I was in the lead, and I got swamped by this Porsche. And then I got batted around by a bunch of GT3 pros where I knew what I needed to do in traffic with ABS and everything, where you can be so close to the car in front of you, if that makes sense, compared to maybe what we do in braking zones a little bit. And you can just stay so close to the cars around you. But I knew we also were in a position where we could win this race. And my objective was not
to give it a car length here and a car length there.
Exactly. But when you give up a car length, you start doing that and you do that over an hour stint, you lose 10 seconds to the leader. Now, if I stay within 10 seconds of the leader every time, I've done my job, wholeheartedly, and I'm good. So I got done at 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. In my last runs, I was always within 10 seconds of the leader, so I wasn't really pushing it, right? But I saw if it was a sprint race, like I had one moment where I went to go 3 wide for the lead or second place on that first run, and I end up like, I knew in a sprint race, I was like, I just outbraked them in the bus stop. I've got this. But me being like, hey, this is your first 24, and this car could definitely win the race. This is not the time to do it. It was like, and back out, right? So that was tough for me, but in the end, it was super cool. We ended up getting wrecked. I woke up like right before we got wrecked in this big wreck on a restart that was none of our doing and just wrong place, wrong time. But then I went and did the TV booth, and I did a bunch of TV as well. But when I got done with this whole thing, by the way, I was up when I finally went to bed Sunday night because I went to dinner with my family and all this stuff. I was up for 39 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was so dead.
Brutal.
Then I got sick on Monday. Weird.
Yeah, you had the flu for like a week.
Yeah, it knocked me out. Everyone was sick around the Rolex, even everything leading up. So when we got done with the season last year, I started taking vitamins every day, like tons of vitamins. And I was like, I know I can't get sick in the next 2 months. Like, this is just not allowed. I had too much going on. And we get to the week of the race, and everyone is sick down at the Rolex. Like, everyone's got the flu or cough or something. And I'm just taking my vitamins. And I said to myself, I'm like, hey, body, you can get as sick as you want come Monday, but you've got to survive through this weekend. And sure enough, I get to the race. On Monday night, my throat feels like it's on fire, and I had the flu. And I was like, yeah, well, you know what? It listened.
Hey, you said something that really sparked my just a light bulb for me on the racing side in traffic, where you were like following them and, you know, giving up a car length here and a car length there, and you know, being able to follow them close in the braking zones. And it made me remember something that I had learned kind of late in my career, and specifically from Kevin Harvick. And I know I've talked to you about this at short tracks, especially like Martinsville, where remember how I used to say, like, close that gap in the middle of the corner and just bump them? Someone like Kevin Harvick always like, well, you know, they just give you that little bump in the middle of the corner, and you think like, what is he doing? Right? Is he like, it's not even helpful, right? It's like, he's not moving you out of the way. It's not even, they just like bump. But what they're really doing is they're not letting you in the way of them screw up their corner, right? So when you're half a car length behind someone at a place like Martinsville, when you see them break into the corner and their car lifts up, what's every driver's initial reaction? To brake at the same time, right?
Yep.
But you can't do that because you still need to drive the car to your braking point, which is actually about where they lifted, but you don't want to lift at the same time that they lifted, because now you're lifting a whole car length before your braking point.
That is actually fascinating. Oh yeah, I know you told me this. And
you have to, this is where one of the best drills for this in the simulator, and you could probably do this on iRacing. Can you use a ghost car on iRacing that's on a loop lap? Like, that's on running the same lap over and over again?
In time trial, you can do that.
But it's a ghost, right? It's not a physical car.
Yeah.
So in the Chevy sim, you can have a ghost car that's running the same lap over and over again. But it also has physics. Like, it's not a ghost. You can't drive through it. Like, if you bump it, it's not moving, right? It's like, it's going to get in your way. But it's a really, really good drill. And this is so for iRacers or somebody to set a ghost car and run behind that ghost car, but don't let the ghost car get in your visual way of running your lap and hitting your lift points. And you'll find that, you know, you'll be a car length behind the ghost car down the straightaway. When he breaks into the corner, you still have to drive to your braking point. So you will close that gap to just a couple feet. And then you're going to follow him by just a couple feet all the way into the corner, to the middle of the corner. And then when he gets on the gas to go out of the corner, he's going to drive away from you by a car length. Anyways, it's the whole visual of the actual, how an accordion actually works at a short track, or especially road courses, right, where you have a huge deceleration. That whole accordion effect is very interesting.
That is, actually.
Because how many times have you had a spotter at Martinsville?
Oh, I know what you're about to say.
he's killing you on the way in, but you're
Yep.
getting him, you're beating him off the corner.
All the time.
It's not. But the funny thing is that's a trick. It's not true. It's not actually what's happening, right?
Yep.
So it's all
100%.
that
It's a visual
distance
trick.
is that like the time and the speed. It's all relative, right? So when you're looking at from the spotter stand, the spotter is the last person that should be telling the driver. In some ways, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's almost the last person that should be telling the driver you're driving in too deep and he's beating you off the corner, or the
Hey,
other
man.
way around.
It's good short track racing.
That's good short track race. Anyways, that's fun stuff. But so when you were saying that you struggled in traffic on that, I was like, I could see that. And you know what? If I would have a very hard time racing in traffic in a 24-hour Rolex 24 in these brittle race cars, right?
Yep.
In an endurance race with 3 other teammates that are relying on me, and I'm responsible for this thing in a restart going into turn 1 at Daytona, I'm probably going to give them a couple extra feet.
That's how I felt. That's how I approached. I said to them, I was racing with mittens on. Discretion was the better part of valor in my mind, because it was just like there was times where it didn't matter. It was like we were, you're 13 hours into this thing. There's still more to go.
That's what makes it hard, because
and it's
for
it's
some of
like
those people, they're full aggression all the time.
Well, and it's like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and you're like, there is just no reason that any of this matters. As long as I stay within a certain delta to the leader, we're not going to lap down. It doesn't matter.
Right.
All I'm trying to do is get this car to where,
I just don't want to screw it up.
I don't want to screw it up. I did get run into twice. So I had a little bump side by side into turn 6 with Jack Hawksworth, who was in the Lexus. He's the Lexus Pro. He's a pretty aggressive driver. He was making some wild moves in the middle of the night. And then I got hit into the bus stop and almost completely wrecked by this Mercedes, where he had let one guy go through into the bus stop. I followed him through. He just didn't realize I was there. He turns in, nails me. It like knocks the wheel out of my hands almost, and I'm heading directly for the barrier. And I'm like, like this is not good. Where's your button? Because it was a different word. And there it is. Thank you. And I like somehow get the wheel back and then like skip the rest of the bus stop. And my heart was like at 1,000. I was like, oh my God, you almost just wrecked this thing, you idiot. So that was where I was like, all right, this is just not, there was nothing to, I think we were racing for like 3rd or 4th place in class. So it was like, who cares? And it's not the purpose. You're trying to basically keep the car within a certain delta of the leader, keep it clean, and get it to 3 to 4 hours to go in that condition. And if you do that, you have a shot at winning this thing. And that's all that matters. Second place at the Rolex doesn't give you there's only one thing that gives you anything, and that's winning gets you a Rolex. So it's like all we care about is being first at 24 hours. That's it.
So here's my question for you.
Yep.
Would you, as a professional race car driver, would you buy yourself a Rolex Daytona? Or is that, as a professional race car driver, is that reserved for actually winning a Rolex Daytona?
So you told me to get a Rolex one day, if you remember. And I was like, I don't want to buy one because I've always wanted to do the Rolex 24 and I want to win one. And so now that I've done it once, I'm like, winning, like,
I can't. I will hopefully.
Yeah.
I love watches. I'm not a watch collector. I'm not here to talk about watches. I do have a nice watch, but I will hopefully, as I grow and build wealth for myself, I can treat myself to fancy watches throughout my lifetime. A Rolex Daytona will not be a watch that I buy for myself.
Yeah. We'll go win it.
As a professional race car driver, I feel like I would rather win one or not have one.
Yep.
It's like a football player buying a Super Bowl ring. You can't do that.
No, No, I don't want to buy one. So I want to win one. I thought we had a great shot.
Now,
we really
other
did,
Rolexes,
by the way.
There's plenty of other Rolexes you could buy.
Yeah, I guess I could get the other ones. I'm just
saying.
Only one I ever wanted was
A
a
Rolex
Rolex Daytona. So, for obvious reasons. And we had a real shot. If we could have got that car to 3 to 4 hours ago with Frank Pereira and Mario Fonbacher, who are our pros, they were just unbelievably fast. And I think if we got them to that point, we had a shot at it. But wasn't to be. We'll have to go back again next year. Also, some news. I am going to Sebring Tuesday, Wednesday of next week because I will be driving the Lamborghini at the Sebring test. Wink, wink.
Nice.
the next big endurance race is the 12 Hours of Sebring. Sounds like I might be there. So kind of cool. Would be fun. Hey, we got to give a shout out to our buddy. We're gonna move through this thing. By the way, we do have a lot of motorsport stuff to talk about. We've been gone for a couple months, so we wanted to take the time to just talk about our lives for a second. Shout out to Josh, our producer. He got married in the off season. We bought him some things.
Yeah.
Josh, what did I get you?
You got me some luggage and
Hell
some
yeah.
Southwest gift cards. And then Landon did the old Cassill family tradition and bought us a toaster.
Love it.
There you go.
Love
That's
it.
my wedding gift.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys.
I don't remember. I don't think I did it. That must have been Shannon, but I'm really happy for you.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I used the luggage on the wedding weekend and
Let's
the
go.
mini moon weekend. And Landon, the toaster has been used pretty much every day since we got married. So
Love it.
it's been
Congratulations,
sick.
man.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
You're building family moments landing in that kitchen every day.
I've
Every
bought
day.
so many toasters for weddings. It's my gift.
It's the boot. That
It's
is
the
a great
gift that I
gift.
give.
It's a great gift. Speaking of
The best
eraser,
part- one last toaster
Go
joke
ahead.
is like, I've bought toasters for weddings for like people that like billionaire families. I got them a toaster.
I gotta get some. I want
Like
to
other athletes, they're like race car drivers that I've gotten invited to their weddings. Always a toaster.
It's
That's
like
amazing.
it's like a Rolex Daytona, but
It's,
it's
for like Daytona. I know. I should just have a toaster like inscribed on the bottom of it
That's actually
on your
the
wedding
best.
day,
Courtesy of Landon Cassill.
January 2025. The castles.
The castles. The toasters. That's like epic. I love that. I've never even thought about having just like a themed go-to gift. That's so good. I don't know. I think a lot of them I've always gotten lazy and just been like, here's money. I don't know. Here you go. But Josh, you had a good registry. I do know that. I do know that was my credit card. So it did come from me.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Well, I appreciate it. And we already used the Southwest flights for our honeymoon. So
Perfect.
we're going to be out near you. Maybe we can finally catch up. I'll be in New York. Let's go grab a meal or something.
When is that?
That'll be in July.
I'll be sure to be
Probably
gone.
when you're busy.
All right, let's get moving forward here. We talked about E-Racer, that event thing we used to do in sim racing. We also still have an eNASCAR team. We got two new drivers, Logan Clampett and Tyler Gary. Actually, Tyler Gary returns, but
Well,
Logan Clampett
technically
also was
returns.
one of my first drivers in the eNASCAR ranks many years ago. So cool, kind of reunion there. And we finished second in the first race.
Yeah.
Their clash.
Yeah.
Maybe this year we won't suck. I think we were damn near dead last year. Maybe we improve this year.
We're getting close.
Yeah.
We're getting better.
Yeah. There's some sort of foosball thing this weekend on Sunday. I don't even know. Who's
Who are
playing?
you rooting for?
Who's playing?
It would be the
I
Eagles
hope they
and the
both
Chiefs.
lose.
Go Chiefs?
Chiefs?
Is that what you said?
No, I said the Eagles and the Chiefs. are
No, I know,
playing.
but Landon said go Chiefs.
I know I said I hope they both lose.
Wow.
Well, I hate the Eagles because I'm a Giants fan, but I just have watched so little football in the
I was
last 2 or
hoping the
3
Bills
years.
would make it.
What's that?
I was hoping the Bills would make it.
I was too. I actually watched the end of that game. I was hoping they would too.
I'm an Eagles fan, and my wedding was on the same day that we were facing the Rams, and they had it on the big screen like 20 minutes before I'm getting married, and I'm stressing out about the wedding already and the Eagles game. It was too much.
So, do you guys do anything for the Super Bowl? I always enjoy the Super Bowl.
I think
do
we're
like
gonna just do an appetizer platter, just a bunch of apps.
It's always a good day.
I
enjoy
planned
it.
to have like 1,000 drinks, but now I've got to leave Monday to go to Sebring, so my drinks will be limited. I have to go drive fast. Yeah, I've always liked the Super Bowl because it's an excuse on a Sunday night to hang out with people, have some drinks and wings and that sort of thing. I've always enjoyed that. It's a good
Yeah.
time.
It's hard to
Usually-
watch the game.
Yeah, it is. It's really, I never even pay attention. Unless the last one I remember paying attention to was the Giants in 2011, 2012 when we won the Super Bowl. So,
Let's talk about racing.
but yeah, let's just do 2 reviews out there. Remember, if you want to be on this podcast show, sorry, whoa, that's a bad start to 2025. Oh God. I want to get it together, boys. So if you want to be on here and heard your review on this show, go to Apple Podcast. That's okay to say because that's what it is. And give us a 5-star review, and we'll talk about it on here. So this one is from Jeff from Maryland. Says, original perspectives make this a standout. In a world full of show choices that are difficult to distinguish, this show stands apart and has survived the great culling of my commuting options. Ooh, I appreciate the varied experiences that Parker and Landon bring, as well as their interest in the larger racing world. I cheer their eventual hostile takeover of a sponsor and cross my fingers that next week will be the week Kyle isn't left waiting in the green room. Ooh, you'll be surprised this time. Although his grace and composure in the face of repeated disappointment have made me a fan. Keep up the great work.
We have some of the best writing
It's
and
incredible.
reviews on this show.
Well,
I mean, I
have
don't
the
know if
most
it's a
intelligent
combination of AI
listeners
or
ever.
Yeah, we do. You know what? I think that show. I think that is it. I think you have to be a pretty intelligent person to listen to the show, or at least to write a review.
Basically, we're the antithesis to the DBC.
Oh, just firing shots early.
Oh man, that wasn't. I didn't mean.
You know what? I'm excited about Baldwin on that show though. That's
nice.
Tommy.
I like
I need to give it a listen.
I do too. I haven't listened in a while, but I'll definitely check it out. I love Tommy Baldwin. He's a true racer. One more here from Sim Racer 1018. Best all-around racing podcast. 5 stars. Parker and Landon deep dive into current motorsport news, happenings, and insider perspectives. Great way to stay updated on NASCAR, IndyCar, F1, as well as the rest of the motorsports world. Keep up the great work, gentlemen. Thank you. We appreciate that. Hey!
One correction: it's a show, not a podcast.
Oh,
Sim Racer 1018.
Oh,
wait. Yeah, wait.
okay. Sorry. That's only because Josh thought that it was so important that we improved our quality that he made me and Parker buy these new audio mixers and everything. But what he failed to realize is that they also came with other features.
I tried to
Neither
send
of
the
us
one
are
with
mature
less.
enough.
I thought
you
I
like
sent
sound
the one
effects-
without these features.
2025 is going to be your year. Trust me. You're going to love it. Let's talk NASCAR.
I'm sorry, guys.
Guys, let's talk racing. Let's talk NASCAR. We did have a race this past weekend. It was the Clash at Bowman Gray. Sold out, 18,000 people. It looked like a lot more. And the racing was surprising.
Better than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, my goodness. It was incredible.
You know what? And you know what's funny? We should not show our hand because that just goes to tell you that we do not watch much racing at Bowman Gray.
No, we don't.
Because everybody that watches racing at Bowman Gray probably knew what that track was capable of.
Yeah. The next gen car on short tracks has been such a struggle. I was hesitant, but I think between the tire fall off that it had, which Goodyear obviously brought that option tire from last year, that super soft one, and it worked great. And it was obvious that tires were falling off and guys were treating their tires better and having better longevity and that sort of thing. There was the wall indentation off of turn 4 that became
It great character.
Yeah, great character. And those couple things combined with the ability to go onto the, where you could change your line and go into the curb and into the drainage ditch and launch the car, get it to rotate down there, or even Denny Hamlin, who passed around the outside at one point and was able to make an outside second groove work, which I talked a lot about. And I think that just all added up to whoa, this was way better than
It
I
was good
expected.
racing. It was better racing than I thought. All that said, right? Great racing through the field. The whole weekend was pretty much dominated by one guy. Isn't it funny how this is how I don't envy NASCAR's position ever when it comes to trying to entertain a fan base, because even us, right, experts of the field, we are so inconsistent of our judge of a good race. There's no way to define what a good race is, because sometimes it's like there has to be this incredible race for the win and it has to be thrilling and whatever. And then yet you have this race at Bowman Gray. There was no real thrilling race for the win, or any win for that matter. Chase Elliott just smoked him all weekend long, and especially in the 200 lapper.
In the old feature.
The racing through the field and just, I don't know. It was, It was entertaining. I was surprised by how committed to the bottom some of the chooses were.
Mm-hmm.
They would go like 4 or 5 lanes at one point, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that made it kind of interesting. But I thought Blaney had a chance there. He must have just kind of burned up his right front or right rear. He looked like he was kind of in a spot there where he was running a half a lane up.
Yeah.
Thought he was going to give Chase a chance, make a run for it. But
He had a shot. So the thing he was doing that was super interesting when he started to catch him. If you'd listened to our broadcast of it, that was just internal. But myself and Adam Alexander, one of the things I noticed really quickly when he was making gains on him was his rear brake rotors were glowing. And so he had gotten tight, turned the brake bias a ton back, and was getting the car to rotate. But when he lost his big chunk of time as he dove to the inside of Kyle Busch, got by him when they were lapping him, and because of that, he sort of overdrove the corner and he locked the rears because he had put so much rear brake, which works well when you're in a rhythm and you're starting to manipulate the car and getting to turn and you're in that rhythm, you're only hitting the brake so much. And then when you hit it too hard one time because you've overdrove the corner because you just passed a guy and you got out of your rhythm, he locked the rears and went off the track, and that's when he lost the most time. And I was like, damn, though, like that was super cool because you saw it all happen in real time. You saw his brake rotor start to glow. Obviously, he was making a difference in the car. He was starting to catch Chase at a 10th a lap or so and cut the deficit down to like within a half a second, and then had that big moment, and that was toward the end of the race.
right.
But
That tells me that that was not a peak brake pressure type deal then. In order to run rear brake, when you run a ton of rear brake bias like that, he's sort of having less peak brake pressure, riding the brake all the way down through the corner, trying to gain time on entry, like that whole first half of the corner. That was interesting. But
yeah, I thought that was cool. The crowd was awesome. I know there were some comments about the broadcast where they couldn't hear the crowd particularly well. I couldn't tell that because we were doing the rehearsal, but it looked great. Visually, it was stunning, and I think it was a cool kickoff. We'll see if it returns there. There's some talk about maybe the Clash being moved again to somewhere like International, or I saw a lot of tweets about wanting to do this at more short tracks where you kind of go in there, improve the short track, give it safer barriers, set that thing up for the next 10 years of its life, which is a cool concept. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like that.
Yeah, that would be cool. Good job, NASCAR. Good on NASCAR for doing that. I still don't know. I don't know what's right for that event. Should they just go hop around grassroots racetracks, invest in them, fix them up? I think the Clash at South Boston would be cool.
Oh, that would be cool. I'd sign up for that.
The Clash at Hawkeye Downs in Cedar Rapids, Iowa would be cool.
Hey, wait a second. I know the owner.
Right?
What's the temperature, though, in early February, late January?
We'll make it happen.
It'd be the snow
I
race.
don't know. I mean, I think that there's a lot of cool ways we could do this. I still don't know what's better, right? Is it that? Or should we put them on track at Wimbledon?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
In LA Coliseum. I think there's probably a cost difference. I bet you NASCAR did fairly well. I bet you they spent about $10 million less dollars on this event, putting this event on, than they did the Clash at the Coliseum.
Depends what they bought it for, but they got an asset as opposed to, the Coliseum deal. People were asking me the other day, what happened to all that stuff for that track? I was like, I don't know. It might be sitting in a parking lot somewhere in California or being recommissioned into asphalt that's on a road somewhere else. I have no idea.
I think in NASCAR's position, if somebody wants to pay for it, if somebody wants to send them to Wimbledon or wherever, then they'll do it. But if nothing else, over the last 3 years, NASCAR's proved, 4 years, they've proved that they can do this in a stadium. They can be fairly mobile. That including the Chicago street race, right?
Yep.
They're starting to get good at, popping up these events, and I think that's a skill. I think that's an asset that NASCAR's probably needed for a while.
Definite variability in the schedule has been the theme of the last couple of years. And they've done, to your point, they've done a good job of that. And I think this race, the best thing that ever happened was getting out of Daytona and just utilizing it in a totally different fashion than what it was conceived to be.
I think so.
Right? So like to your like, it's just different. We're talking about something different, and now we can focus at Daytona and super speedway racing, and you get all the races down there and that sort of thing, and you just don't get. It doesn't get monotonous. It doesn't feel like you're going to see the same show you saw a year ago, that sort of thing.
Right.
So I like it. I think if they stay there, that's cool. But I love the idea of it just being a moving circus and continuing to evolve and move around. So
The only thing about Daytona, though, is we have definitely given up the Speed Weeks era of Speed Weeks, right? And I don't like that part. Because I don't, do we even do pole qualifying on Sunday anymore?
it's not. No, it's going to be Thursday,
I thought it was it Thursday or Wednesday?
maybe Wednesday. Thursday's the duels.
Yeah. I think I just, that is a I hate to say tradition because it's not, I'm not supportive of it for the sake of tradition. I just think that build up, right? And creating those storylines and the time, I always thought that there was a value in that, but I also I'm not the one analyzing the numbers.
Well, the Indy 500 has lost its month long of Indy, right? It used to be the month of May, and now it's down to like 2 weeks essentially. The only one that's still doing it to the same level, that's these big races, I would say, is Le Mans. It's still like 2 weeks. It's always been that way. They've kept that going, but I just think, attention spans are shorter nowadays, and there's just why if you have the chance to put it somewhere else, like they've done, and get a different audience to pay attention or something different. It's proven the last the clashes did really well.
Attention span is a matter of minutes and hours.
Yeah, but I think
Creating a storyline for the biggest event of the year. What's wrong with it being a 10-day ordeal, right? At least a Sunday to Sunday, Saturday to Sunday.
Right now you would have qualifying on Super Bowl Sunday. Who's going to watch that?
Well, that's not good.
No, that wouldn't have worked.
You know what though? Now that I think about it,
The Super Bowl used to be earlier. Used to be in January.
Super Bowl used to be earlier, but then if you look at Daytona 500 week, we're gonna get 4 Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 solid days in a row of on-track activity. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
For people, for people at work, for people around, whatever they're doing, they can turn on their TVs and their computers, and for 5 days straight, there's gonna be racing on TV.
hell yeah, brother! Racing. Let's go.
I guess it just
Race
it
cars
used
on
to-
the racetrack.
used to be for 10 days straight.
I know. Well, think back to preseason Thunder. Used to be like go 2 weeks of that.
So let's talk about that for just a second.
Okay.
We used to go to Daytona in January for 2 days, 3 days. How long was testing?
It was forever. I never did it, but I used to watch it all
and then
because
we'd
it was on
come
speed.
back, and on you would practice on Friday, you would practice and do the clash on Saturday, you would qualify on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday was off. You would practice on Wednesday, and you would do the duels on Thursday. You would practice on Friday, practice on Saturday, Daytona 500 Sunday.
You knew that place well by then.
Gosh, that was a schedule.
Yeah, it's too much. So you just refuted your own point. Build all these storylines and everything, but you're like, God damn, by the time we got to the race, you're like, let's get the hell out of here. The hell are we doing here still?
There was still some from like a competitor standpoint though, there was still like a nice relaxing way about that schedule. It's like, you could I can't tell you how many times I think I walked into the garage with shorts on after cup practice had started because we had no plans of being the first car out. And it was like, hey, what are we doing today? They just want to do a plug check and that's it. It's like coast in. All right, guys, 1 lap. We're good.
It was hard. I broke a sweat. I'm going to see you guys later. I'm headed to the beach.
Yep, see you guys later. Like, just knock the rust off from the winter.
With a plug check. God, I remember those. I haven't done that in a long time. The plug check. Remember you used to get done with a qualifying lap, be like, pop, and like you just clutched it and turned it off.
Plug check.
Plug check. Yep. Oh my gosh, what a time! What a time! Is that everything on the Clash? Anything else stick out to you?
That was Clash.
All right, we clashed it.
Oh,
did
speaking of New Year's,
What's
new
that?
year, new season, new spoiler diecast.
That's right.
Lay it to him, Parker.
Well, we do have news of our buddies at Spoiler Diecast. We did not take over their company, but what we did get them to do is commit to another whole season of the Money Lap. They will be with us all throughout this year. Our buddies at SpoilerDiecast.com. That's SPOILER diecast.com. Go check them out for all your diecast needs from NASCAR, IndyCar, F1. They've got all sorts of racing memorabilia. They've been growing like a weed. I was just talking to their founder and CEO the other day. He's super pumped about their growth. We also have my diecast, the number 48 Spike Coolers, Big Machine Racing Chevy that was on for sale there. I am getting a shipment of all the ones that are being asked to be signed. So we will get those back to you and out to you as soon as possible. So just stay patient on those. But for all of you that have gotten the unsigned one, I saw a ton of those at the Rolex. Thank you very much for buying them. That means a lot. And you want other diecasts from around the racing world, go to SpoilerDiecast.com. Use the code MONEYLAP for 10% off. And we're going to do some other special things with them throughout this season. So we're not just going to have that single promotional code. We're going to work with them to hopefully have other deals throughout the year, and specifically for specific episodes or weeks or certain races. We're going to come up with other things we can do with Spoiler Diecast. But thank you guys for coming on. They make this possible, and we really like them, Landon. How'd I do?
Yeah, you did great. Thank
you.
I think I'll take over the ad reads though.
Okay,
from here
yeah,
on
you
out.
take it from
I'll
here.
take them back.
Yeah, you
but
can
yeah,
have it.
we did successfully art of the deal style negotiate a better sponsorship packet. We gave them their company back and said in exchange extend the terms of our sponsorship. So that worked.
We'll are the deal.
Yeah, that was just
Well
just
done, Trump. You did a great job.
Nice move there. So
That was good. Yeah, we really took some business courses and really, like your 20 group, we laid down the law. So
that's right.
Lawsuit updates. We haven't really talked about this in a while, but basically there was a big win in the offseason for 2311 that they're able to race as chartered cars in 2025. We had some conversations with people involved in that over the offseason, and those guys over at 2311 were pretty excited about this one. It was a big win.
Yeah, I think that was it's just like kind of hit after hit momentum in the favor of those teams, which has made the storyline of this lawsuit over the course of the year even more interesting. So,
yeah, we'll see where it goes, but they definitely got the positive momentum in their favor with it. So we will we'll keep our eyes on it and keep talking to those guys.
The big overarching question that we are asking ourselves is,
Please.
what does this lead to? Because
Where does it go?
Where does this go? Does this lead to NASCAR? Like, what does NASCAR have to? I don't know. The breaking off the tracks, breaking off. Like, what do they? What ultimately needs to come out of this? I don't.
Is
I'm
there
not sure.
financials that have to come out? There's all sorts of things. There's questions.
Oh yeah.
So this is not going to go away by any means. We will continue to hear about this, and it's definitely going to be a theme through the year. It's quiet for now. Race cars are on track. It's like it never happened a little bit, but trust me, this will continue to be a conversation. There's no doubt. Let's talk to Daytona 500. It's got a massive entry list coming together, and especially the open drivers. You've got Martin Truex Jr. with Tricon, Jimmy Johnson with Legacy, Justin Allgaier with JRM's first Cup start in that 40 car. The special guest invitee to the Daytona 500, which we'll get into in a second. Elio Castroneves with Trackhouse, Corey LaJoie with Rick Ware Racing, but branded as his own team, Stacking Pennies Performance, the 01 car. He talked to me. I got to talk to him about that a little bit a couple weeks ago. BJ McLeod with Live Fast, Chandler Smith with Garage 66, Anthony Alfredo with Beard, and JJ Yeley with NY Racing, all vying to be a part of the Daytona 500. How many cars is that, Josh?
Let's see. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Well,
6,
you're
7,
just gonna
8, 9.
count. You're just gonna
So
count.
it's technically 8 open cars, right? Because Helio is
He's
a
locked in,
guaranteed
basically.
spot. And he's an extra car. Like, he's not taking up a spot.
He's not. So there's
So-
that.
Unless he qualifies himself in.
Now, that will be interesting. Wouldn't that just piss everybody off? If they gave him an extra spot, P41, you can be an extra car. You're not taking anything from anybody. And he goes out and qualifies like 4th for the Daytona 500.
That would be annoying. that would
be
is-
annoying.
Yeah,
would-
that's just a
I would
slap
be
in the
annoyed.
face.
I would be annoyed.
I wonder how many of those teams, if you're Jimmy Johnson, JRM, Tricon, have gone to Justin Marks and said, "Hey, bud, let's not try with that."
Yeah, why don't you not try?
But I think there's financial ramifications because if you're the 41st car, do you not get prize
No
money?
points, no prize purse.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Oh, so
So
you're
he's
racing
in-
for free.
Yeah, so he's incentivized to be like,
Oh, he
F
needs
off.
to make the race.
We're going to make the race. Yeah. It's basically just a catch-all if you are going to, just to guarantee
Knowing
those
how
guys to show up in the
conservatively
race.
race teams budget this stuff, though, if they do make the race, that is pure. That is probably goes all to gross margin.
If I'm Justin Marks, I'm telling all those teams that come up to me that, hey, you don't want me to try? That's $50,000, and then he just starts stacking on.
Yeah, each one.
so
Because it's about
it's-
500
so
grand to start
our
the damn
field-
race.
Yeah.
So we have a legitimate field of 8 cars racing for 4 spots.
Yeah, we do.
So we're gonna have 2 out of each race that will miss the field.
2 that make it in qualifying, 2 out of each race.
From the perspective, just taking myself back to when I used to analyze this stuff. Who are the gimmies? No offense to those guys, but who are the ones that are really, really odds against them?
Odds against them?
Probably the
Well, you got to go JJ Yaley, BJ McLeod,
so BJ,
Chandler.
JJ.
Garage 66 is just Carl Long stuff.
Who is
be NBN.
who's JJ Yaley driving for?
NY Racing.
Okay, and then BJ is driving his own deal.
Yep.
Chandler what?
Garage 66, which is Carl Long, MBN.
Okay. And then I suppose Corey even driving the Rick Ware car. Although
Yep.
that equipment, it definitely shouldn't sleep on what they're capable of.
No,
speed-wise.
especially if
And
RFK is
Corey.
fast.
But those are your sort of non-factory backed, hyped technical alliance caliber.
Yeah, Anthony Alfredo is in there.
Oh,
So-
Alfredo. Well, that's 5. And then you have
Then you have
from there,
Elio
it's like Johnson.
and
Okay.
Truex.
So out of those 8, who do you think would be the 2 that qualify in? Because does NASCAR still lock in 2 from on speed?
Yeah. So I think if you're looking at that, it depends what the major teams do. But if you look at qualifying historically, I would say Justin Allgaier has the best shot because Hendrick is
Hendrick
always
at
fast.
Daytona.
So that's probably one of your top 2 qualifiers.
In the next gen era, has Toyota been fast at super speedways in qualifying? They have not been fast
I don't
for
think
a long
so.
time in qualifying.
We could have someone being like, "You idiots! They won the pole last year."
I know. All 8 Toyotas qualified top 8.
I would be surprised
Yeah, I feel like qualifying at super speedways is
as a Chevy game.
it's a Chevy deal.
Yeah. So that opens up the room for Trackhouse or Corey with RW. If RFK brings a lot of speed, which could be, I could see off of the whole front row stuff that was figured out. Who knows if that's disseminated through the Ford field?
If the top qualifiers are Allgaier and Castroneves, then you're looking at 5 cars going home.
Yeah, it's on.
You,
And
you have-
2 of those could be former champions.
oof.
Yeah. That's a tough one. You know who won't lose?
So that'll be fun.
You know who won't lose any sleep, nor will he show an ounce of anxiety or nothing like that? Would be Martin
Me.
Truex Jr.
Oh, I was going to say me.
Yeah, you. Yeah,
I
us
have-
sitting on the sidelines
I
watching.
have Flynn had enough sleepless Wednesday nights in Daytona.
Oh, I'll never forget the 20 when you had told me the best day of my life would be making the Daytona, like racing my way in. But the night before that duel, I slept terribly. Like it was awful.
I think I remember telling you, like, just don't forget this feeling.
Yep, you did.
Because
But
like
it was-
once you get to the other side, it's the best feeling in the world.
It was the best.
Just
But the
enjoy
night
it.
before, you're just sitting there being like, I've got to race into the biggest race. And for that team at the time, the Gaunt Brothers, it was like a $500,000 to $700,000 swing in financially to make the race. So it was a big deal. It was a big,
What
big
year
deal.
was that?
2019. My last Daytona 500. So we'll see. The 41st spot is interesting. We'll see how that plays out. Other news out there. NASCAR and Xfinity announced that they will be paying points for the fastest lap of each race. So it's an owner and driver point.
Cool.
Just regular season points. Kind of interesting. We've always seen those Xfinity fastest lap things and that sort of stuff, but for it to actually mean something now.
Why not?
I think it'll be funny at the Xfinity races, the truck races, and even the Cup races to see that the fastest car will be someone that's tailed the pack for 90% of the race.
Oh yeah.
And it'll be like Joey Gase, Xfinity fastest lap point at Daytona.
It'll be like that that meme where it's like the guy standing on the podiums, where it's like the top guy, and the guy that's like off to the side, and he's spraying the champagne on himself.
That's big. For the smaller teams, it just adds the importance of super speedway racing because, for teams, especially in the Cup Series, this doesn't happen as much, but if you really were a bottom team that's finishing the 30s often, 1 point percentage-wise is massive. So it can be massive. So that can really add up. It would have changed. I saw some numbers out there. It would have changed. Well, listen to this. It would have changed Christopher Bell advancing out of Talladega, and it would have changed Kyle Larson would have most likely won the regular season championship, which would then at Martinsville had him within like a point or less of or he would have made the championship four.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
well, then you just kind of maybe prove my point wrong, but just off the top of my head, I don't think that it's going to be that interesting or relevant until the playoffs. Nah, I still commit to that. Yeah, I don't really think this points thing is that interesting to me until the playoffs. That's where I think it'll get interesting. Because
when you're getting the playoff cutoff, it will.
Unfortunately, for the mid-level teams, this award is really just going to get paid out to the fastest 10 cars every week.
Yep.
With the exception of super speedways. Right?
Yep.
So this is really kind of and it's not by a lot. It's only 1 point, but this is a little bit of a rich get richer, in my opinion.
Well, it's the same thing in the stages.
Right.
Stages have done that.
Right. It's just a little bit of a rich get richer. It's a little bit more of an award for the faster cars. So the same 10 cars I think are going to win 80% of these points. And that throughout the regular season maybe it'll just make the points battle for the non-win playoff cut line like closer. I don't know. Maybe it may make it interesting, but like I don't think that we will really care about these points until in the playoffs, and that's where it'll be interesting. Is those last to get to the next stage of a playoff, you're going to have 8 drivers who are all capable of winning the fastest lap point, trying to get the fastest lap point. Now,
what I don't think we'll see.
Here's another thing to think about.
Go on.
That it's just I'm sure that somebody's already looked at this data and I haven't, but when does that fastest lap usually happen? Because at some tracks, that fastest lap could happen early in the race and it just never happens again.
Yep. Although it usually happens late in the race.
Does it happen late in the race?
Yeah. It's usually when it happens.
So is it going to reward is it just going to reward people who start in the first 2 or 3 rows late in every race?
Probably.
Because it's is it going to get one on a late race restart with 30 laps to go? They throw the caution. The whole track settles down. We all have clean air. Well, no, we don't all have clean air. Just the leaders have clean air. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see, but I feel like I'm most interested in it once we get in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, I think it adds up, and it's going to get you to basically the what am I?
Well, it's
trying
not
to
a
say
playoff
here?
point, is it?
No, I know, but I'm saying it adds up to the end of. It will be most interesting at the end of the regular season when you see it all added up. Like that's what I'm saying.
Well,
Like, of course,
yeah,
the
but
first 5 weeks, it's like who gives, but it will add up.
Yeah, but it's gonna add. Okay, maybe this is a better way of saying it. It's gonna add up, and it might be interesting interesting to see how it helps decide the regular season champion. But it's not gonna have that big of an effect on who makes the playoffs because the 10 drivers who are gonna win 80% of these points are probably drivers who have wins anyways.
Yep.
Right. So I think it's gonna have very little effect on the regular season points, other than. It probably will be a difference maker on who wins the regular season championship, right?
Yeah.
Where the fastest lap point will be interesting on a race by race basis is in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. Now I get what you're saying. Now we're on the same page. You're 100% right. The other interesting side to this that I don't think we'll see is in F1 when they've had this, which I think they just got rid of it, by the way. The thing you would see is teams that are in a position where they can get a free pit stop late in the race, low fuel because they don't refuel, so the fuel gets lower, the car gets lighter. They'll see it the pit road delta is 25 seconds. They have a 25-second gap to the person or 28-second gap to the person behind them. They're not going to catch the person ahead of them, and so they say pit, put on soft tires, and they go and rip a fast lap to try and get the point, right? So I don't think we'll be seeing that. I don't think you'll see someone, it's just not, that's not how it would operate in NASCAR. Maybe a road course. I don't know. That'd be such a stretch.
No, because the best chance, like your car has to cool down, it has to have a cooling period and everything to go rip a fast lap.
Yeah.
And you have to have perfectly clean air. And so the fast lap is probably going to come from a late race restart. And so whoever's on the first row of the late race restart.
Yep. Yeah, because you pump up the tires late in the race.
And you have clean air from the
You have
restart.
clean
You
air.
don't have anybody in front of you.
Yep. No, that's where it's going to come from. 100%. Hey, one thing that won't happen if you have damage now is the DVP will no longer end your race. I don't know if you saw this, but basically instead of you running out of time on the clock and then just go in the garage, they're basically going to allow you to then just go work on your car in the garage and come back out. So we will start to see broken race cars again on the racetrack. I don't know if we're going to see crash carts to the level of the mid-2010s. Those insane, massive things that held all the body parts that they could just bolt on. And even as far as like suspension components, all that. But I think you will see more damaged race cars on the racetrack.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't like the crash clock anyways.
It's still there. In Xfinity and trucks, I think it's exactly the same. But for Cup, they've changed it for obvious reasons because you had all those issues at the end of last year where they're making decisions on whose race was ended and whose wasn't, and it just didn't make any sense. And so it just cleans it up. Richard Childress is still angry about Richmond. Says he lost $3 million. He's not getting back, by the way.
Oof.
Yeah.
$3 million.
$3 million. I'm sorry, RC. We really are. All right, moving on. Xfinity Series.
I don't know why I don't believe that, but okay.
It's a tough. That's
Well,
that's
I guess
tough one.
he probably had playoff bonuses and stuff.
Yeah, they had sponsor bonuses. I think they can make an argument for it for sure, but it's kind of like, we talked about all this.
Fair and square.
Yeah, but I think the problem I have with that whole deal, not to bring up this from the past, but the only thing I had a problem with it was I would have been probably more supportive of them not doing what they did and knocking them out of the playoffs, but making it very clear that was too far and the next time would, sort of thing. I just don't think that was clear beforehand. We've talked about this already. I had that opinion. I stand by it.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Are we going to hear more things out of you this year now that you're not embedded into an organization.
Would you think I was holding back?
I don't know.
What the?
I
He thinks
just asked if we're going to hear more.
I'm an open book. Yeah, I'm the media now. I don't care. Come after me. Come at me. I don't care. I'd say, yeah, I think there was things I had. The problem I had a little bit was I was very privy to a lot of things that I had to remember if it was public knowledge or not. That was a tough deal last year. Like, you know, when you're so embedded in an organization, like I was at RCR, and then you have those Christopher Bell had the biggest one, which was when he said that Chase Briscoe was going to Joe Gibbs before they had announced it. Like, that's the best example. I didn't want to do one of those, so I constantly had to check myself and be like, when it was about RCR, hey, what is actually public knowledge, and what do I know because I know it because I'm there, right?
Oh,
So, like, if I saw a car that was going to run or a driver that was in there that was going to be running a race, I'm like, did they announce that yet? I can't remember. So that was always tough. Speaking of putting your foot in your mouth, Corey LaJoie had some interesting comments about Xfinity and truck racing when he did his preseason interviews with Fox and sort of that media day. And essentially what he said was that it wasn't worth racing on Saturdays or Sundays once you've been or Saturdays and Fridays once you've been to Sundays because there's no crowd in the stands and people only care about Cup. I actually do agree with him in some respects.
Yeah, see, I saw exactly what he was saying.
But the way he said it obviously angered some people. And I can see how that was taken to be thought of as a slight for a guy that hasn't really spent much time in those series or won in those series. But I still get what he's saying. Of course, the show is Cup. And I always go back to when I did my Cup start at 22 at Gateway, and he walked up to me when my car was smoldering on fire after practice. And he was like, "Welcome back to the show." And I was like, "You're right." Sorry. Oh, I needed the beep. But it was like, yeah, this is the show. And like we always say, the show is Sundays. So he's not wrong. It's where the biggest money is and the most eyeballs. And, he's gone a path of trying to stay there.
Let me just dumb it down to a business level for him too.
Okay.
Right? He didn't own a team. And all of his sponsors that have supported him for years are legitimate sponsors that needed maximum exposure for the money they were spending. And sometimes the best way to do that is to guarantee that you're in the big show, right? His sponsor, Schluter, they've activated at these races by bringing out contractors and, doing hospitality at these events. That has been the best fit for him. So I think that he has made that choice too for his partners, that it is best for him to be where the biggest audience is. And so I don't know. I mean, I didn't disagree at all with what he said. I don't think that there's any one true way to do it either.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody has a different scenario, different needs, and not just every drive. This isn't just about drivers choosing what a driver wants to do, because it's not all about the driver. Somebody has to pay for it. And the person paying, the entity that's paying for it has a say in that too, of what they need. So, I don't know. I mean, Corey's Corey. I love him to death, and I think he's got a voice, and he is Randy's son, so he's gonna say things. He's gonna say things as they come to mind.
That was what some people said. They're like, your dad made a Hall of Fame career basically out of running the Busch Series, 3 Series.
I don't know. Maybe he's rebellious. Maybe he's a rebellious kid. Maybe he doesn't want to do what his dad did.
He's still he's still got his emo phase going on.
But I didn't. I felt what he was saying, and it didn't offend me. But I heard what he said, and it was definitely a soundbite. That's for sure.
It really was. And when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this is not going to be taken the right way." Yeah,
and you get,
he doesn't get the most love
chiming in, and
he's
Josh
somehow
chiming in.
Well, somehow he turned the public opinion very much against him, at least on Twitter, like what you see on Twitter.
Well, he's been doing that for a year or two here.
Yeah, it's been a 2-year warpath. And
Do you
it's-
successfully make everybody not like you on social media?
yeah, I've been trying to think of the same thing. It sounds kind of fun. Looking forward to it. So please don't just start.
Hey, it's a good
disliking
way to
us.
elevate yourself.
Yeah, it
It
is.
works for a lot of people.
Dale Earnhardt said, as long as you got 50% making noise, you're winning.
As long as they're making noise.
Yeah, well, they're making noise. But what was his thing? 50% hate you, 50% love you, something like that. As long as
Yeah,
they're
I don't
making
know.
noise,
I
something
think
like
it's
that.
I think it's something along the lines of as long as they're making noise, it's all that matters.
Yeah, I like it. And you're doing something right. Let's move into Formula One. Should we? Okay.
Speaking of noise,
Yeah. Well, they don't have much anymore. But Hamilton. Oh, crickets. This is gonna be a
Hamilton
good
binned
year.
it.
This is gonna be a good year.
Is that what you were leading off with?
What
Didn't Hamilton wreck it?
he did at Barcelona, first laps. Yeah, he did his first laps at Fiorano, and then was at Barcelona and crashed. So, but he's back testing again. So we'll see how that goes. He said he did make a post. He feels like he's at home now.
That's good.
Yeah, we're happy for him. That's gonna be big, man. 8th World Championship in a
I
Ferrari.
hope they're fast.
Gajillions.
That's the story. Is that the storyline that we care about this year?
Oh, it definitely is.
Formula One?
It's the one. It's the only.
Well,
storyline.
actually, we're going to care about it for the first 2 weeks. If he doesn't win, if Lewis wins in the first 2 weeks, then it will capture the hearts and minds of all international potential F1 fans.
It's gonna be massive.
If we're
Ferrari
like
knew what
5
they were
weeks into
doing,
this and his average finish is like 6th, then
but it's not good. He just needs to stay within striking distance. If they can keep him within striking distance, but he's got to
because
win.
they'll put together the strategy to help him win. So
Yeah. Where do you think he wins first? If you had to pick a place, could you?
I don't even know what place they race at. Give me 4 options.
Come here for your expert opinions, and we will.
I haven't even looked at the schedule.
You could pick.
Daytona,
Yeah, Daytona. Yeah, he's got a shot.
Bowman Gray. What?
I'm gonna say it's gonna be Melbourne. Do we even still go to Melbourne?
When do they race at Silverstone?
It would be Silverstone,
Can
but
you
it's too late in
imagine?
the season. If it takes that long, people are gonna be pissed. If
Well,
they're
that
fast
does
enough.
suck, but could you imagine him taking Ferrari to victory lane in Silverstone?
Well, we kind of saw that reaction last year when he won Silverstone after that drought in a Mercedes.
Yeah, but that's driving for Mercedes.
Yeah, Ferrari.
Their
Big.
factory's in London.
Yep. That would be big. Well, the bigger one will be if he can pull off Monza. That's where it goes down.
Yeah, that's
Or
bigger.
Imola.
Maybe I'm thinking too deep on that. Monza, Lewis in a Ferrari at Monza in victory lane.
Tifosi would
That'd
go
be it.
insane. It'd be huge. So Charles Leclerc also is going to be in an interesting position where he's no longer the golden boy, right?
Charles.
So, I just think that's going to be interesting to watch as well happen. Hey, look at this. Netflix is considering a bid for the F1 rights, live rights.
Whoa. They
Yeah.
should.
That's what I think. It would be that's their audience. That's where they're at. They're not going
It
to
is.
ESPN. They're all there watching Drive to Survive.
They're still watching it. They're like,
Yeah.
they don't know how to find the race.
Yeah, they're like, where is it? What? Wait a second. When's the new season coming? I see this stuff
Right,
on
they're like,
Instagram,
"Yeah, I
but
love
it's not on
that F1.
Netflix.
When's the new season? Oh my god.
Oh my god!
Did you guys know that Drive to Survive has a live edition now?
No way.
Yeah. They actually do
What?
the races live.
What
Yeah.
is do the drivers talk as they're driving, sort of thing?
Yeah.
No way.
Cool. It's like a reality show.
That's amazing. Do you get to see like their girlfriends and their houses and everything?
Oh my god.
That's a clip. That's a good clip. Oh, all right. Speaking of some F1 into IndyCar stuff, Will Buxton left F1 TV and is joining the IndyCar booth as the play-by-play. Said it's because IndyCar is the greatest racing on the earth. So that will be interesting. They got James Hinchcliffe and Townsend Bell, my buddies. By the way, speaking of which, you're going to love this. So there was 3 of us to bring it all the way back to the beginning of this show, if anyone's still listening to this episode. There was 3 of us that were on the NBC broadcast and driving at the Rolex 24. Guess how close we all were in our fastest lap time. In the morning, we all were in the booth at one point. James and I, Hinch, had done a stint in the booth, and then Townsend was coming in to take over. And Townsend showed us this. Guess how close we were in lap time?
Huh.
We were all within a tenth of fastest lap of each other.
Did you guys all run around the same time?
No, that's the funny part. Now, Hinch got the least amount of time in the car, so I think because his
What
car
were they
wrecked
driving?
early. I probably had the most time in the car. The Lexus was pretty slow compared to our cars, I think, so that's not good on me, but I was the slowest. But they've been doing this forever. So that's
What
not
were they
fair.
driving?
Well,
Lexus?
Hinch and I were in the exact same type of car. We were both in a Lamborghini Huracan. He was just in the Pro class. We were in the GTE class.
But same car.
Same car. The GTD Pro car and the GTD are the exact same car. So, means I was on it. Two guys won IndyCar races, right?
Not bad.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Appreciate it. Fox did a good job with that commercial they had, by the way. Did you see that?
How much money do I need to come up with to run like 5 Lamborghini races?
In IMSA or Lamborghini Super Trofeo? 5?
Whatever you drove.
I think you could do it for $500,000, maybe $800,000. If you want to do all the endurance ones, you want $800,000 probably, $500,000 to $800,000.
Well, that's not bad.
No, it's not that. But remember, you're one of multiple drivers, so that gives you a scope on the budget. It's basically GTD basically spends the same as a Cup team per every race on a per race basis.
$500,000 a race.
Yeah.
Oof.
It's wild. Now, the Rolex 24, to bring us back, by the way, is basically a season in a race, if you think about it. You're there for 12 days, plus you race for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an immense amount of on-track time that adds to all that. And that means that's not just the tires and fuel. That's changing all the parts in the car and just people and logistics and all that stuff. The logistics alone were mind-boggling. I won't lie. Me figuring out my personal logistics to that time was overwhelming.
What about a Super Trofeo?
I think you're way cheaper. You're talking $50,000-$80,000 a race.
And is that the same car?
No, they're not the same. Those are actually probably faster because they're not held to the same rules as GT3. I believe they could be faster. Definitely
Do I
more
have to
power.
change my wardrobe?
Yeah, you have to wear only Lamborghini, like Lamborghini apparel.
Is
That's
the
that's a
do I have
prerequisite.
to buy a Richard Mille watch
Yes,
in order
That
to
or
get into the
Petite
garage?
Philippe. You have to have one of those, and you have to have your ball cap must be NetJets ball cap.
Okay.
You can't wear any other type of cap other than a Rolex one. You can wear a Rolex hat or a NetJets hat, but that's all. That's all that's allowed. And you have to wear the slippers. You know, the driving slippers that people
Driving
wear.
shoes.
Yeah, driving shoes
Loafers?
like Todd's.
Yeah, I have Todd's driving loafers.
Oh yeah, there you go. No,
Yeah,
you're
we can
perfect.
go.
You're ready. You're ready. Just need a NetJets hat and some Lamborghini apparel, and you can show up at a Super Trofeo race, and you don't even have to pay. They just be like, oh, of course you're supposed to be here. Come on. Last thing before we end this first Money Lap of 2025, it's probably sounded way better, but because we sounded so good, we have just decided to talk forever, it feels like, which has been fun. We've been relaxed. It's cool. Formula E said, and they put this out there, that they broke a record for viewership in the United States for the Mexico E-Prix, which was on January 11th, I want to say. They say 10.5 million people watched it, which puts it only behind the Miami GP as one of the more watched races in America.
That's incredible.
That just didn't happen. I'm just, I like Formula E. I like what they're trying to do. I like Jeff Dodds, the CEO, who came on this very show, but I'm just going to put it out there. That didn't happen. Now, to unpack that a little bit, they basically did a style of ratings that no one actually talks about, which is like if a TV went on it for a minute, that's considered a viewer sort of thing. Most ratings are considered far differently and are done far differently in terms of how much time that you average over a time period of the actual race. So, and I've never heard of CBS Sports Network having that level of viewership. So that didn't. I don't think that happened. But good for them.
So maybe file this for conversations for another day. But what is the right way? What is the best way to measure viewership?
This is something I've asked for. I've now been in TV since 2014.
Or maybe
I've asked that question a lot.
what's the best way to measure popularity?
That's a good question as well.
That's
Landon.
a good debate between NASCAR and F1.
Yeah, that's a great one. What is actually, people say F1 is more popular, yet it doesn't get nearly the TV ratings. So how does that work?
Interesting.
What?
I don't
How
know.
does?
Leave a comment, like and subscribe.
Let us know. Yeah, let us know on YouTube in the comments. Please like and subscribe. This has been fun. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, it feels great to be back.
Oh my gosh, we had new audio. We were supposed to have a new background for you, but we're not there yet. You have a new seating position. We got new things going on in our lives, but we did do the same thing we've done for the last year. We forgot we had Kyle Busch in the green room. We're sorry, but we've run out of time. We've been talking way too long. Kyle, we swear it's not a joke at this point. It's just desperately embarrassing. We will figure this out. We'll hopefully have him on next week. Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Peace. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Money Lap. If you like this show, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Share it with friends. We want to spread the word of great motorsports shows, of which we're somewhere up and around there. I'm not exactly sure where, but nonetheless, you can also reach out to us anytime on across social media or at our website, themoneylap.com, or at our email, friends@themoneylap.com. And of course, you can always leave us a review. 5 stars gets you on this very show. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Goodbye.